Hello, hello. I think I feel the most consistent practice that has been the biggest player in my awakening has been breaking the habit of mind. You know, there are so many teachings available on deliberate creation, on changing your life, on awakening and enlightenment. And many of the gurus around enlightenment point to enlightenment, but they don't actually give you a step-by-step system to follow. And that is because the mind cannot take us there. Now, deliberate creation is about using the mind to change our human situation. But to me, awakening is about going beyond the human mind into the divine mind. And we cannot think our way there. It's a choice to move into the heart and into presence rather than into thinking. And, you know, why I say this has been the most consistent practice is because the habit of mind has been so ingrained into me for more than 60 years and into pretty much all humans since they were beginning to talk, that it's the way that we naturally live by. You know, we're constantly thinking and we're constantly dialoguing and storytelling about every single moment of what we experience. And then we live through these stories that become beliefs that we live by. But the human mind, the personality, the ego mind, is a very distinct level pertaining to form and humanity. And to go beyond what we already know and experience here in the human form, we need to rise out of that human personality mind, the creation of man, into the divine mind, the universal mind, where all wisdom is. And it's not about thinking. You know, the divine mind, the wisdom, is about feeling. And through pure feeling, without story, without dialogue, without human level mind, we come into presence. And in that presence, we meet our whole self. We meet our God self. We meet the spaciousness, the universal mind, divine mind, pure awareness. That's where it moves us into. So, you know, people will say, you know, we've got to be more loving. But we don't think ourselves to loving thoughts. We don't constantly monitor our thoughts and choose loving thoughts. When we shift into the heart, that vibration of an open heart naturally exudes love, and it raises the frequency of the whole being, and it raises the frequency of mind. So it naturally shifts us from the human mind of limitation and duality into the divine mind, which is love and wholeness and goodness and fulfillment and abundance and peace, grace, all of the delicious things that we're all desiring. The human mind is about duality. It's about the positive and the negatives, and anything we create or bring into form through our human thought, we're bringing into form in duality, which means sometimes we're going to experience the positive side of it, and other times we're going to experience the negative. So I'm noticing on my journey, and I don't really believe it's a journey, but in the human form, it does take time or practice, I should say, experience to really sustain heart-centered living, to sustain that presence. So, I notice that, and I choose, my one goal is to live in wholeness. And I am continually asking myself, who am I? What am I? Where am I? And bringing myself back into that state of open-heartedness. Yet I notice that as I continue to do this, the mind is constantly there, and it's very easy to get caught back up in it, because as things start to change in my world because of my change of focus and frequency, the mind still wants to dialogue it and make sense of it. And really, I don't believe the awakening process can be logicked out. I don't think it's able to be adequately intellectualized to make sense. It's about feeling, it's about faith, and faith doesn't rely on intellect. So, I'm constantly faced with this choice, heart or mind. And I know as I choose the heart and continually come back into presence, that mind is losing its power. And I am aware enough most times, and I still get caught, but when I do realize that the mind is creating some sort of confusion, it's a signal to me to come back into the heart space, not to argue with the mind, not to try and think anything out, but to shift back into oneness, into the heart space, into presence, into the now moment. Because the mind, of course, is all about the past and the future. It uses the past to try and create the future. But from the heart space, our future is wide open. And this is where faith comes in, because we are truly living in the unknown. But the thing is, our frequency is in such a raised space, a lifted frequency, a higher frequency than where we are in the human mind, that we are aligning with wholeness and love and our desires. And without us being deliberate with our thought, our desires are being met because our frequency is meeting them. We have placed so many desires right through our lifetime, but most of our desires, we don't even really know exactly what they are. And all of our desires are coming from our spirit, our whole self anyway. So, our non-physical self knows what is going to light us up, knows what is going to give us the most delicious life. So by living in the heart space and having absolute faith, we begin to live the heaven on earth that we desire. Things start to align for us. And I truly believe this is what each of us came into this life for. And somewhere along the line, believing that we were this human form, this body mind, and we felt separate and vulnerable, we began using our mind and the intellect to make some sort of sense of it and to keep ourselves safe. But when you meet with yourself in wholeness in the present moment of now, you know you're the only one, and you know that you are perfectly safe, that you're infinite, that you were never born and never die. Yes, the form does, but the self doesn't. I'm not this body mind. I'm the energy of life itself that is animating it, that is using this body as a perspective to live through, to share the gifts of who I am, and to experience myself in other forms, to see myself reflected back to me. But after experiencing this oneness, this life itself, I realized just how delicious and how diverse I am, and the experiences I'm able to gain wisdom from through my every experience. And I see that no experience is wrong. It is chosen to give me that broad understanding, to fill in all of the gaps of knowing that I came into this lifetime to experience. And when you can understand that nothing is wrong and that you are creating all of it as a gift to yourself, then life starts to take on a different tune. And yet it keeps coming back to, do I choose the heart or the mind? Because from the mind, you're in a very limited perspective. And from the heart, you're in a very broad perspective where you can gain all there is to gain in here as a feeling, as a knowing, not as an intellectual understanding. Because all knowing has to be experienced to be a knowing. Without the experience, it's just more data for the mind. So what do you choose? Please comment, like, subscribe, and I'd love to hear from you. Have an absolutely beautiful day. Big hugs.